This is West of Everest. I am Lee Benson. He is Grant Benson, and we are joining you a day after Oklahoma knocked off Michigan in Norman 24-13. The Sooners improved to 2-0. The biggest game of the week in college football goes in Oklahoma's favor, and we have a lot to talk about here on the post-game West of Everest podcast. It's good stuff. It's a game that Grant, I'll welcome you into the show. And you said it was a must-win game for Brent Venables in Oklahoma, and Venables and the Sooners took care of business. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, one, it's just nice to be in a game that was very obviously the biggest of the week. Watching it on Saturday Night Football, there was like a cinematic aspect to it. It felt like, you're kind of back to big-time football. And I think the Tennessee game last year felt pretty similarly all the way up until the ball was snapped to start the game. But it was just nice for OU to be squarely in the spotlight on a Saturday night against a team that won a national championship 18 months ago. They are not far removed from that. They still got a lot of guys who played in that national championship game who were playing for them last night. And then for OU to win the game and also pretty clearly look like the better team the entire time. And there's some stuff that needs to be cleaned up, which we'll go into. But on one end, I feel kind of relieved that my eyes over the course of a 60-minute football game tells me that, yes, Oklahoma is just straight up better than the team that won the national title, 1 year removed from it. And I think that's completely necessary, especially knowing what they have coming down the pike on the schedule. But I think it's a really good first step. I think on a play-in and play-out basis of that game, I think the Sooners looked genuinely really, really good. There were some things that happened that prevented them from separating from Michigan in the first half and in the second half. But you could theoretically say that those things can be cleaned up, especially when they have what appears to be a quarterback who is completely in control and an offensive coordinator who I think those two feed off of each other. And so it is a fun game. I'm really, really happy they won. And also just I'm for the most part really pleased with what I saw.
So both of us this morning, we watched the game last night and rewatched the game this morning. And so, man, upon rewatch, it took me a long time, took a ton of notes, so I haven't even had a chance to really organize my thoughts, but that's okay, whatever. Treating this kind of like the game just ended and we're going to react to it. I know last week when we recorded right after the game, we did likes and dislikes, and that was kind of how we broke it up. And so I think it's an easy way to start again. And obviously Oklahoma wins a game against a top 25 opponent. And let's start with our likes. And since I don't have anything really organized, I'm going to go whatever at the top of my head. And so an easy like is obviously John Mateer. We started with that last week. Mateer, liked the way he played. We can go, as we do this podcast, we can go into more and more details. But a more precise thing that I like that goes along with John Mateer, and I think it's appropriate to start with this because it really set the tone, you could say, for the entire game. And I think it was the third snap of the game on third down and long. Jaren Kanak. I liked what I saw from Jaren Kanak for the second week in a row, and I think he had five catches. Got his stats right here. 5 grabs. Is that right? Sorry, 5 catches, 69 yards, and he had 5 catches last week, if I remember right. So he's already up to 10 catches, and it's pretty clear, Grant, through 2 games that Jaren Kanak is going to be a lot more involved in this offense than we even thought. And you and I were thinking that, hey, yeah, he could be a nice little bit player, similar to Cooper Mathers last year at Washington State. So far, Kanak has been a target for John Mateer, and he opened up the game on third and long with that excellent catch down the middle of the field and really set the tone as Oklahoma went on to score on that opening drive. So loved what I saw from Kanak last night.
Okay, you started there talking about Mateer, and then you go into Kanak, which is great because Kanak would have been my first like as well. Because Mateer's Mateer's a baller. Like he's and we were talking before we hit record, but I think we got the full spectrum of John Mateer tonight. We got all of the great, and we got some of the bad as well with John Mateer, and we'll go into that further. But I'm glad that you started with Kanak. It's only a 2-game sample size. Jaren Kanak at H-back, tight end, whatever the hybrid role he's playing is. I think we're kind of on dude alert right now. I mean, he looks that good. He's better than Bauer Sharp by like a fair bit. He looks like, I mean, I think as of right now, I think we can realistically talk ourselves into him being almost the equal in the passing game in terms of a pass catcher to a Dimitri Flowers or a Jeremiah Hall. I mean, I think he's just as valuable as those guys are right now in terms of catching the pass. Like, I'm kind of floored with how good he's been. Just like his one POC against him in the first games is just that fumble on his first catch against Illinois State. But other than that, I mean, he catches everything. He's crafty. Like he understands where his blocks are and he knows where to run around them. And he's hard to bring down. Like, that's Michigan. Michigan's got athletes on defense. Like, there's a lot of NFL guys on their defense. They were struggling to tackle him. So Kanak is very clearly a weapon. I think he's someone that, I mean, they're going to be in their bag a little bit later in the year. They're going to have more that they can show with him, and he's just going to get more comfortable and more comfortable. We're not even talking about, I think there's a lot of people who saw some things in his game against Illinois State, especially like him trying to block up the run game that didn't look great. Well, I mean, fast forward 1 week to the Michigan game, and you got Kanak just stoning Jayshawn Barham on the game-winning touchdown run from Mateer in the third quarter. Or was that in the fourth quarter? Okay, it was in the fourth quarter. But I think the guy is just nothing but positive from the guy. I'm super fired up about the whole Jaren Kanak thing because I think it's already 2 games in. I think it's already exceeded all of our wildest expectations for him. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's a really good player. It's 2 games, so I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. But so far, so good. I think it's definitely fair to say. I mean, he's had more impact so far in 2 games than Bauer Sharp did really all of last year. And you mentioned him. Yeah, the fumble was not great, but he's been fine ever since. He was able to. I mean, that first catch last night, great grab. Kind of was able to bring it in one-handed and collect it.
It's a sick catch.
Took a couple of hits as well, coming down. Later in the game, there was a play. This drive didn't really go anywhere, but on a first down catch on the sidelines, he caught it and then kind of split a couple of defenders and got a couple extra yards, and it was hard to bring down. There was that really dangerous throw that Mateer had late in the game that he just threw it up to Kanak in the middle of not middle of the field, but that was pretty dangerous, and Kanak was just there. He came back for the ball and got it. So it shows that, we thought that in the first game it was Keontae Lewis was kind of more of like a security blanket type of guy. In this game, Lewis had a couple of nice plays, but Kanak seemed like more of a security blanket type read for John Mateer, especially as the game went on. And so, yeah, he was great, and happy to see that. And I was texting our group text this last night. Football is a sport, man. If you're athletic and you're not dumb and you have a coach that puts you in good situations, you can look good. And Jaren Kanak is a guy that is athletic. He's clearly not dumb. He played a lot of offense in high school, and that stuff does transition over. It does. Like, it's a feel for the game. And on top of it, he's being put in good situations because Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer are just so much better than what Oklahoma had last year. I'm sure Ben Arbuckle could probably utilize Bauer Sharp in a lot of fun, different ways. But Bauer Sharp was, with Oklahoma with Seth Luttrell and Jackson Arnold. So maybe,
but also, I wish we saw a lot of Bauer Sharp last year, and you can just see it with your eyes. I mean, Kanak's a better athlete. He's not struggling to catch the ball at all. I mean, going back third play of the game, that catch over the middle that he one-handed. I just want to emphasize how sick of a play that was. Him being able to pull that in, him getting sandwiched by the 2 Michigan guys. I mean, it was a split second after he caught it. He got sandwiched, and he holds on. It's a great play, and so I'm pretty fired up as to what we're going to see from him later on in the season. Because if you would have asked me going into this year, I'd have been like, I think OU probably should be, almost exclusively like a 10 personnel team. Get your receivers out there. But now that Kanak has emerged, it's like, no, I mean, he needs to be on the field pretty much at all times. I mean, he's been that good for them. Only if it's just like as a security blanket, like you said. I mean, if he's there, I think he's already proven that even if he catches the ball maybe 3 or 4 yards down the field in the flat or whatever like that, I mean, it's not a gimme to bring him down. I mean, teams it's taken 2 guys to bring him down a lot of the time. And for whatever reason, like you said, he has that feel of where he has the good instincts. And maybe that's always been the case. Maybe that was maybe out of high school, and he's a 4-star guy, and his high school tape is just him essentially just explosive plays like in the run game as a quarterback. the entire time. Maybe his highest upside was just always on the offensive side of the ball, and it just so happened that that because Venables is just a defensive guy, that is just how they erred, and they tried to make him a linebacker, and it just didn't work out. But this clearly kind of seems to be something that he does well. So I'm super excited about that. But so I'm going to move on. I'll kind of get going in the right direction here. We're going to stick with the offense because it sounds like we're talking about the offense right now, which I thought just as like an overall thing, I think the offense was for the most part really good last night. I think Michigan's defense is really, I think it's a top 10 defense in college football throughout the course of the season. And so I liked that OU was able to look competent a lot of the time against it. And, they went 3 and out a couple of times, and there were some plays where Michigan got the better of them. That happens. They got a lot of NFL guys, and they practice too. But for the most part, OU was able to keep the chains moving and everything. And I think a big part of that was, I'm going to go with the offensive line. I think the offensive line was really good last night, and especially in pass protection. Mateer was clean a vast majority of the night. There were some times where Michigan brought a blitz off of the edge that worked multiple times. There was one blitz that they kept bringing that OU kind of seemed to have issues with, where they would blitz one of their safeties. But other than that, when OU was tasked with blocking 4 or 5 guys in the pass game, I thought they held up extraordinarily well. And Lee, the one guy that I kept watching, I made an emphasis while the game was live to watch what he looked like a majority of the time. Man, I thought true freshman Michael Fasusi was really good last night, like most in pass protection. I think he got beat on one occasion in pass pro, but other than that, and he was going up against Derek Moore a vast majority of the time, Michigan's best defensive lineman. Derek Moore didn't do anything last night. Fasusi was stoning him pretty much exclusively the entire night. I thought that's pretty dope. It's good to see. I mean, if Fasusi can be like that guy already as a true freshman at left tackle, I'm not going to say sky's the limit, but the offense can be really good.
Yeah, it's another good left to right, Fasusi, Ozaida, Michael, Weewu, and Simmons. Weewu the only one who started last week, and so almost totally different 5. Yeah, Fasusi was really good. I was watching him too, and the rewatch, and it's just the best compliment I can give any of these guys. Really, as I was rewatching the game, I didn't really think much about the offensive line. Derek Simmons, I mean, on the right side, I just didn't. Nothing really was. There was
Simmons
no
was good
real
too.
Pressures and very, very promising. And I'll do it again because I'll criticize this podcast a lot, but I want to be consistent and be somebody who can praise. I mean, I'll praise Gabe Eichert once again. Eichert had all these high expectations for Fasusi, and his first college start, not just college start, first action, and he was really good. So, and against a real team, a real defense. So, hey, great. That is terrific.
He's the left tackle. I mean, you don't even concern yourself with anybody else. Fasusi's the left tackle. He will be out there, and I know he wasn't out there for the last kind of game icing drive. It was Howland at left tackle because Fasusi, he got banged up, I think, on that second to last drive. I saw that they made him available to talk to the media after the game, and there's some other from some of the other coaches, they said he's fine. And so I hope that it was just like he was just kind of limping as he came off. But I mean, Howland came in and Howland was okay there as well. Like, I mean, he was the left tackle for that entire game icing drive. So yeah, I'm
it was for part of it. Fasusi got injured during that drive.
On that drive, okay. Well, it's hard to remember because that drive took up more than half of the fourth quarter, which is like, man, that's odd. And like, oh gosh, we're doing grab back here, but I loved that final drive. It would have been so much better if they could have capped that off with a touchdown in there at the end. But I think also you got like on that, I think you got to tip your cap there to Jayshawn Barham, who made a really good open field play on Torrey Blaylock on a play where I think that's the right play call in that situation. I thought Michigan had kind of left the running back open in the flat pretty much the entire game, and I'm glad that that's what they went to on that play. And then it's just like you're running back on their linebacker, and he made the play, and that was a good play. But so, man, I thought the offensive line did a really good job. And you know what? They weren't great in the run game or anything like that, but they were good enough to the point where Michigan had to account for it the entire night. I thought they very obviously ran the ball better in this game than they did against Illinois State last week. And I think I think that's kind of all you can ask for. I mean, and this is a real defense. Like there are multiple NFL guys in that front seven for Michigan, and there were times where OU was able to open up some holes, and I super encouraged by it. I mean, I think they like that's something to build off for sure. And man, a lot of games left. There's 10 games left in the regular season. They can get a lot better.
I'll clean a couple things up. So Fasusi hobbled off the field during that game icing drive. It was right after the play, the 3rd and 1, where they went I formation, and Javonte Barnes banged through and picked up a couple of yards and got the first down. So it was after that play that Fasusi hobbled off. And then, I'm glad you brought up that 3rd down play to Blaylock at the end of that drive that he was tackled. And just how interesting is it that Arbuckle has enough confidence in Mateer and just his play calling ability to call a pass play there that if not for a really nice play by the linebacker, that's a touchdown. I mean, that's not an easy play call. They could have just gone easy and simple, boring run play, but he's like, nope, we're going to go. I have confidence in my quarterback Mateer and my running back here, and it was just a nice defensive play. So that was kind of cool. Kind of put that in our back pocket for the future. That Ben Arbuckle is not afraid to ask John Mateer to do things, and there's going to be some good stuff that happens with that, and there's going to be some bad things that happen with that. But the aggressiveness is good, and I love aggressiveness whenever there's actually talent and there's ideas behind it and there's good play design behind it.
And I also want to bring up, going back to the previous drive before that where Sandell missed the field goal, the most predictable missed field goal of all time, by the way. The third and long little dump off to Barnes when Michigan just sent the house. It's a perfect play call. Perfect. I mean, that is the best play call in that situation, and I thought OU executed it perfectly. Hat tip to Mateer for throwing kind of just like a little teardrop catchable pass. Hat tip to Javonte Barnes for catching the ball and actually turning upfield and getting the first down. But and I'm gonna sort of use that to transition to my next to talk about it a little more. Ben Arbuckle is. And I saw people sort of comment on this on social media last night after the game. Ben Arbuckle he's worth it all, man. He's good. He's real good. I thought he was a step ahead of Wink Martindale the entire night.
So I think Arbuckle can be in definitely the likes, but also you could throw him in the dislikes for a reason, but we'll save dislikes for later. Let's go with Javonte Barnes, because that was I'll make that my next like. And similar, again, want to be consistent. Bag on Javonte Barnes all last week, all during the week. I said that, hey, it's a net negative every time that he takes a snap. And I was wrong about that against Michigan. He played really well. He had a very good game. And you just referenced one of the fun plays from late in the game, and I have it queued up here. So let's go to that 3rd down and 7. Little blitz beater here. Barnes slips out, and you had mentioned earlier that was a play that Michigan had been, as far as they've been rushing off that right side all night, and it makes me wonder if Arbuckle finally kind of realized that, let's take advantage of it, and because they went to that right side, Barnes slips out, nice job there making the catch, not the easiest catch in the world, gets the first down. So Javonte Barnes had a really, really nice game, running the ball and then doing what he does best, blocking sometimes too.
Yeah, I think you saw and I'll give it to Barnes too because he was good last night. But I think you saw him in. I think you saw for the first time in a long time. I'm not going to say this has never happened in his 4-year career at OU, but that was a game in which they used him correctly. They put him in opportunities and positions to succeed, and that's as just a nice little running back role player. And he did. He played his role well last night. His role last night was to bang into bodies and fall forward, which he did very, very well, and to protect the quarterback in the passing game on 3rd and long, which he did really well, and he didn't make any mistakes. And so I'd be interested to see what his snap counts were because I still think Blaylock probably was out there for the most snaps of any of the running backs, and we'll get into Jade Knott and everything like that in our dislikes, presumably. I thought he played his role really, really well in that game. And I think after 2 games, you can pretty competently say at this point, I don't know at this point in time if OU is going to have a dude in the running game. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think their 3 guys last night showed that they can do what they're asked to do. And they can, you can pick up 3 or 4 yards on first down, stay ahead of the chains. that may be all that this offense needs because we'll get into it. And I know, like, I'm kind of curious because I'm assuming you didn't like at all how much Mateer had to run last night. But man, he's good at it. He's the best running back on the team. I think it's pretty clear. And so I don't know. I liked the running game for the most part last night. I think that is, and of course the SEC schedule is going to be really tough, but that's going to be up there with one of the better run defenses they play all season. And they were still able to move the sticks.
I want to make a point to highlight Javonte Barnes. I'm going to share my screen one more time. This is another really nice, like one of the best runs we've seen him make. This was in the first half. This is just a tough run and just banging off people and then getting extra yards. I mean, this is like, that's a really nice run for a first down. I mean, he was in a groove last night. Javonte Barnes was. I was very happy with the way he played. He looked like a different player compared to last week against Illinois State. So just wanted to show that play as well.
It was a good run.
And yeah. And we'll save some of the, because that when I said that Arbuckle could be in the dislike too, that's what I meant by it.
But I think you also on that run too. I'm glad that you brought that up because I think you also see the limitations with Javonte Barnes on that run as well. I think with a more explosive guy, maybe a more explosive guy can take that run to the house because that was really well blocked. I'd like to see what that run would look like with him not running into his offensive lineman at the line of scrimmage. But also, yeah, I mean, you're not gonna when he runs through the trash and he even breaks a tackle, like he puts a guy in the ground and is able to get an extra 3 or 4 yards. I mean, you're always like, if that's what you're going to get from Javonte Barnes, then absolutely. I mean, you're pretty fired up about that.
All right, another staying on the offensive side of the ball. Got to say, Deion Burks, another good game. And speaking of Deion Burks, like his pop pass touchdown on the first drive, all Javonte Barnes gets another key block.
Great block
on Houseman.
Sprung it.
And
can I also
close? Hold on, real quick, to close the book on Barnes. Later in the game, he was tasked with a fourth down, leading Mateer through the hole, and picking up a first down on, I think, 4th down and 1. So that's another thing. That's what Javonte Barnes does well. He blocks well. So just wanted to acknowledge that as well. So go ahead.
Yep. Sorry about that. I shouldn't have cut you off there. But that pop pass I thought was just really well blocked on the perimeter because Barnes had the one there that sprung Burks to the outside. And I mean, Keontae Lewis is there like near the goal line. He's got his guy just in a blender. And he's got his hands positioned perfectly, and he's not coming off of them, and that's what ended up making him score there. So like I that was great to see. It's great to see. So Burks, I thought, especially in the first half, was really good. He looked explosive. He looked slippery, which at times, like especially last season, he didn't look slippery really at all. And so I'm really happy with their receivers. I think their receivers are really, and this is without Giovanni Gibson at this point in time too. I thought Satania, other than the really huge play in the third quarter, had sort of a rough night just with the drop, and then of course the his muffed punt. But then of course he makes up for it with the really really great catch down the sideline in the third quarter. But and then Keontae Lewis, he only had 3 catches, but they were all big catches. They were all important. I think they may have all been on 3rd down as well. So there was maybe one where he had the free yards on like 3rd and inches or something like that, and they swung it out to him for like a 10-yard gain. I think the receivers are good. I think they got a really good core pass catchers at this point in time. Is it the best in the country? No, definitely not. But I think they can put 4 guys out there at a time. You're talking about the top 3 guys of Burks, Satania, and Lewis, and now with Kanik. They got 4 guys out there who can hurt you for sure. And that's not even accounting for, gosh, man, if Giovanni Gibson is what they were saying he was in the spring and he can come back healthy, oh boy. Like that's the one thing where it's like if you add like an actual like certified dude at receiver to this offense with what we've seen, this is only 2nd game that these guys have all played together. Like it can get better. Like it can get better. And it'd be sweet if Giovanni Gibson could come back and add like some sort of other element, like a big body guy who can also make big plays. I think would be sweet. So hats off to the receivers. Yeah. I just the offense is just night and day. I mean, it is just I'm really happy with the offense, and I think there's going to be times this year where they're really inconsistent and we're kind of frustrated by it. But for the most part, man, I'm pretty ecstatic with their progress at this point in time.
Yeah, I think the Keontae Lewis play that you might have referenced, so it was on that long 8+ minute drive in the fourth quarter. It was after the play after Mateer, we referenced earlier, kind of threw it up to Kanik. Dangerous throw that Kanik picked up 9, and it was 3rd and 1. OU goes quick on 3rd and 1, and they're just giving Keontae Lewis a bunch of space on the outside, free yards, and OU took it. It's like, thanks. Like, I love that. And it happened later in the drive, too, on 2nd and 11 after one of the, this is very weird for me to say, one of the rare poor Javonte Barnes runs of the night, which typically there's a lot of those. It was 2nd and 11, and there was free yards to the boundary that Deion Burks was given, and Mateer just took it, and boom, easy free 9 yards, set up a 3rd down and 2, and I think that next snap was when Mateer got face masked, and OU got a free 1st down. Let's see. Back to Burks, though. We kind of hit on him, talked about the touchdown. He also had the really nice catch along the sideline, the far sideline on the next drive, where he kept his feet in very nicely. That was a good job by Mateer recognizing the single coverage with no safety over the top and dropping it down in there. And I believe that was also a play where they were able to draw Michigan offsides, I think. And then also
not on that play. So you're the one where he dropped it in. And he had to sort of tiptoe on the sideline to catch it. That was right after a false start penalty, or maybe it was an illegal formation. But no, sure. You're thinking of the one on the very first drive of the game where Michigan was in a cover 2 look, and he just kind of dropped it in between the corner and the safety for like 20 yards on the corner after they jumped off sides. Can we, unless you had more there, like I really wanted to talk about, just going back to the pace of the game and obviously just like how Mateer and Arbuckle have a very good sense of how to work with each other and like are very comfortable within the offense. Man, the hard count's great. The hard count is going to be a thing that is, I mean, I think they got Michigan to jump 2 or 3 times offsides for a free play. And that's just being smart. That's being comfortable within the offense and knowing what you have to do to, so like, and I wanted to draw a juxtaposition between that and just like the feel of everything, the flow of the game. Compared to throughout last year. Last year was just a dumpster fire. But we go back to the first 2 years under Jeff Lebby and how you and I were constantly on this podcast so frustrated with the flow of the game and them just not necessarily, like them just so beholden and married to that idea. We got to go fast, 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 even when the flow of the game doesn't really dictate it. And I thought that was really good. I thought OU's offense completely controlled the flow of this game. And I loved how there were times when they went slow. There were times when they went fast, when they felt like it was going to be, when it would behoove them, when it would be an advantage for them. And then just with the hard count and them trying to get the free plays is just, I mean, that's going to be a thing the rest of the year. They're going to get a lot of those free plays, I think, because Mateer's really good at it. He's really good with the clap, and they seem to be, everybody kind of seems to be on the same page with it. And there's some like little nitpicky things even on the final drive. They snapped the ball a little bit too early for my liking at times. But compared to the Jeff Lebby experience and then compared to whatever the hell that was last year at any point in time in the year, I mean, you're talking about the difference between the majors and the minors, or honestly, the major leagues and high school baseball. That's what you're talking about. And I love it.
Yeah. And I can, because I wanted to mention the last thing on Burks I wanted to mention was, and this kind of goes along with what you're saying. So how great was Oklahoma's final possession of the first half where Mateer was able to score a touchdown? That was, and that on that drive was a situation where they got what you referenced a moment ago. They got Michigan to jump on 3rd down. And that was also the time where it was Michigan committed a hands to the face penalty. So not only a free 5 yards, they got a free 15 yards there. Later in the drive, it was 3rd and 7, and that was another 3rd down conversion to Keontae Lewis. So that's 2 3rd down conversions, one of them you mentioned. And that was a situation where Mateer kind of has that feel where he's just thrown to a spot on that slant and doesn't even wait for like an opening. He just knows it's going to be there. Trusts Lewis. I love that. That was the play. That was a little bit before Javonte Barnes' tough first down run that I showed about 5 or 10 minutes ago. And then under a minute to go, and I remember kind of watching that and thinking like, man, they had all 3 timeouts left, Oklahoma did, and they weren't using them, and it was under a minute to go, and it seemed like, oh, come on, guys. But they were clearly in control. Mateer was in control. Arbuckle was in control. On 2nd and 2, Mateer rolled out to the right side, to the field side, and then Burks was that early, just a little curl route, wide open. Tons of open running room. Turned it upfield, got down 22 yards out of bounds, stopped the clock. It just an excellent drive, and it was just 2 plays later whenever Mateer kept it and then scored a touchdown to make it 14-0. They go 10 plays, 80 yards in less than 3 minutes. Terrific drive that made it to where Michigan had like 20 seconds left and couldn't do anything before halftime, and they just sat on the ball. So that was huge. The momentum all in Oklahoma going into halftime. And then, once we start talking about the negative stuff, then, that the second half did not start well. But, man, a lot of likes on offense. Trying to think, is there anything else offensively that we like that we have not talked about yet?
I don't think so. I think we saw – it looks like – I mean, the 3 receivers, that's pretty much who we saw majority of the game. I saw Jermichael Carter out there a handful of times, but for the most part it was just Burks, Satania, and Lewis with Kanik, and Huggins was in there, every now and then too. We'll talk about the dislikes with the interception that was going to go to Huggins, but I thought that's something really good to build on for the offense. They left some points on the board for sure. You're talking about the overthrow to Kanik that would have iced the game there on the second to last drive of the game. You would like that to be a much better throw from Mateer, and also I think Kanik can probably catch that pass. But also I don't really want to nitpick on that as well, just because that's a timing aspect thing, and we've already seen. I mean, they got better, man. The offense got better from week 1 to week 2, and that's something that's just I'm super happy to see that, because that just really hasn't always been the case in the Venables era, and so I really trust Ben Arbuckle. I mean, I think he's a real good OC, and so he I can't wait to see where it's going to go the rest of the season. So I'm, for the most part, just really, really happy with the offense. That's a good defense, man. That's a really good defense.
Before we go to the likes of the defense, I did want to talk one more time about the big play where Mateer evaded the sack and then hit Satania up the sideline. Now, I think that was a great play, but on the Skycam replay, it made it look even better, because the margin of error looks a lot smaller than it did on the broadcast camera view there, because you see Satania release upfield, and Keontae Lewis is in this general vicinity as well as Satania, and he's got a defender draped on him. So there's a Michigan guy there, and Mateer still let it go and put it in a perfect spot for 36 yards. So that was an awesome play. Great throw by John Mateer. One of the better, maybe his best throw of the day. And then, so just wanted to end on that as we transition over to the defensive likes. And off the top, I mean, in general, Oklahoma allowed, I like yards per play, and I did the math on this. So at the end of the game, overall, Oklahoma allowed Michigan 5.1 yards per play, which, okay, I mean, that's good. That's good, I guess. Outside of the Haynes long touchdown run, Michigan was under 4 yards per play. I know the Haynes touchdown run counts. I get it. But it tells you, though, on a down-to-down basis, take away one play, Oklahoma's defense last night was really, really good. They were terrific.
Real good last night. And I think, and you're right, like, I'm glad you bring up the Haynes, the Justice Haynes run. That counts. Like, they earned that. They're allowed to add that to their total. But if you do take it away, I mean, it's like what? It was like 3.5 yards per play the rest of the game that they
3.8.
3.8. Okay, that's right. It was 3.77 or something like that. But because I think after we saw how the rest of the game went, that 75-yard touchdown was a clear outlier. I mean, they didn't really bust anything else on the ground the rest of the game. And you know what? That's one of those things where that's very consistent with their Brent Venables defense. I mean, Clemson, even when they had top 5 defenses in the country year in, year out, gave up a lot of explosive plays like that. They still did. The thing is, though, I'm going back, and this is what kind of fires me up. I mean, I really like success rate as a just one of the metrics you look at a defense, especially. Michigan had a 25% success rate last night, and that is just it's just not good. I mean, that's just stone cold shutting their butts down. And really, I mean, you go back and watch the game over. Outside of the explosives that Michigan had, and they had about 4 or 5 in the game, they didn't do jack poop, nothing whatsoever. They just could not move the ball, and that's good. That's because I think as the season plays out, and I'm sure Michigan's going to get better. Like I said, their best offensive player, Marlon Klein, did not play in this game, and I'm how much did that hurt them? I'm not sure, but it didn't help at all. I think Michigan's probably going to struggle on offense the rest of the season, but they're probably going to get better too. I think there's going to be some teams in the Big Ten they're able to just pulverize in a submission in the run game, but they weren't able to do that against OU. And you go back to that 75-yarder. I attribute that was Chip. I think Chip Lindsey just got the best of Brent Venables on that play. That run was totally made with just the pre-snap stuff and getting OU out of position. And it was a weird, unbalanced, wonky, funky formation that Michigan had in there. And I was glad that the defense did not allow that to spiral into something worse, because I'm pretty sure Michigan went 3 and out their next drive after that anyway.
I mean, if you're going to talk about negative stuff, I guess we'll just talk about that one real quick. No, I don't think that was anything on Michigan. That was OU. I think that what that was the first half. OU's dominance actually hurt them because the safeties, RSJ and Peyton Bowen, got lazy. And they had 2 quarters of football of the front 7 dominating and not letting really anything get to the next level. And they got lazy, and they were expecting the front 7 to any sort of run play to just bottle them up. And they got sucked in, and then all of a sudden on the cutback lane, they had no chance. I think that was on the safeties. And to some extent, a small bit on Cortland Guillory because he saw the entire thing happen in front of him. And as the corner, that's not really your job, but it would have been nice if he could have maybe gotten in there quicker to get maybe a hand on him to slow him up a bit. But it was mostly, in my opinion, on the safeties, Bowen and RSJ. And I think, again, like I said, I think it's because of how good Oklahoma was in the first half. They had so much confidence in their teammates up front that any sort of run up to that point had not really gotten it at a second level, and there was contact. And that at least that's the way I saw it. That's a negative.
No, I mean, I thought Peyton Bowen was definitely like he needed to be the one to fill there to make sure. But also, I think if you ask Brent Venables, he would say if you're relying on your safety to make the tackle in the hole, and if not, the dude is gone, you've probably made a mistake somewhere pre-snap. Like, that shouldn't be how it is. And like, yeah, they were totally
2 safeties there.
Yeah, but they were outnumbered on that side. And so, like, I don't know. I mean, I think
they were outnumbered on the backside, but everything that's the cutback is what did it.
Well, that's what the play is supposed to do. They're supposed to be the cutback there. Like, that's the whole idea.
So?
Absolutely. Yes. They shifted the 2 offensive linemen like 5 seconds before they snapped it. OU did not realign, and I think that the whole idea of that run for Michigan is to confuse Oklahoma's defense, and that clearly happened because Peyton Bowen was at his eyes in the backfield. He was watching the offensive line. He didn't see him squirt out. So, but yeah, I mean that's one of the big negative things. But I don't really want to talk about that. Positives. I thought the defensive line held up in the run game really, really well. Outside of that one really long one, Michigan just didn't really have a lot of room to operate in that game, like whatsoever.
Let's see. Haynes went for 125, so take away the long run. 18 for 50, which that's nothing really special.
If you take away the long run, I think Michigan averaged only like 2.3 yards per carry.
Yeah, defensive line played well. My first like that I wanted to get to on defense, and because the defensive line was good, and you can, I don't know. I'm just sometimes I have to go through my notes, and I didn't have a chance to really write down everything, but an overall kind of thing that I think is incredibly important that we always harp on. The pass defense was excellent. The secondary played really well, and granted, Michigan didn't really ever test them. How much of that is because they played such good defense? How much of that was Michigan's offense maybe actually is not that good right now? And maybe how much of that is because Bryce Underwood's a true freshman still. Oklahoma's secondary and defense made him look like a true freshman. I mean, 9 of 24, only 142 yards. That's awesome. And I got to say, another like I have, let me make sure I get, because I actually did take some notes on this. I mean, it's been 2 games. And there hasn't really been much of a test yet, but I may really like Cortland Guillory. I think Cortland Guillory might be a pretty good player. And there's some examples. The part of the game that made me kind of start to think that was on Michigan's 9th possession. It was either the third quarter. No, it was late third quarter. It was the driver. Michigan kicked a field goal to go to 21-13. And it was the play, I'm sure you'll remember it when I say it, when Bryce Underwood kind of floated the ball up towards the corner of the end zone, and it looked like a receiver had broken wide open into the end zone, and Guillory had lost him. But it was a miscommunication between Underwood and the receiver. But when you watch the broadcast, or when you watch the sky cam, you can see Guillory playing zone and displaying that he's able to track the wide receiver and also watch Bryce Underwood's eyes at the same time. And when Underwood throws the ball, Guillory's all over it. And he's tracking the ball towards the corner of the end zone while the wide receiver went the other direction. And to me, that showed me, man, this is a good sign that this guy, he understands how to track the receiver while also tracking the quarterback's eyes in zone coverage. And I want that to continue, because that's a savviness that can lead, especially in zone coverage, that can lead to some PBUs and some interceptions and just smart football. And there's a couple other instances where he was draped over a receiver. There was a play on a crossing route late in the game, on a third down, where he was on the receiver and he made a difficult throw. I think Cortland Guillory played really well, and they're going to see other passing offenses, I would imagine, that can test them a lot more than the last 2 games. But so far through 2 games, Cortland Guillory has been really good.
Yeah, he's near the top of my likes list as well. I thought, in terms of the secondary, I thought he was the standout of the game. I thought he was terrific last night. And so I kind of want to clarify, like, after the game last week, my concern with him was all just physical. To me, he looks like a true freshman out there. That's kind of what I was concerned with. But I don't know. I mean, when you can cover like that, and when he didn't make any mistakes last night, at least not to my eye, and every single time the ball was near him, he was sticky. He was really sticky in coverage. How about that? I think this was in the first half, but how about that one where it was obviously a miscommunication between Underwood and McCauley, and it was clearly an RPO read that McCauley was blocking Guillory on there. How is that not offensive pass interference?
Yeah, it probably should have been.
Because he doesn't.
The flag was obviously thrown for DPI, and then so.
Oh yeah, clearly.
But yeah, it probably should have been offensive pass interference. At least they got it right halfway, because obviously it was not a PI on Guillory. And that's the one problem. What I've seen is just his PI last week. I don't think was very good. It was lazy. He was grabby, tuggy, pulley. But other than that, I mean, he played Illinois State pretty well, and he played really well last night. So great start to his career.
Yeah, and I don't there's obviously going to be passing offenses that are going to test OU much more aggressively than Michigan was able to. But in that scenario, I mean, he looked better than he did last week, and I think that's especially when on a primetime game going against a Michigan team. I think that's a really encouraging sign. So I want to give him his flowers too. I thought Guillory was terrific last night. I hope Gentry Williams is healthy. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember when he left the game, but I know they had him. He was in the injury tent or whatever. So that was going to be one of my dislikes when we got to that. was that whole situation. And since you brought it up, might as well. I took a note of it. Let's see. I believe it was Davon Jordan came in for Gentry Williams on Michigan's 8th possession. I think that was the third quarter. And I think he was in the rest of the game after that. I don't think Gentry came back out there. So that was maybe midway through third quarter. So, yeah, it only took us about 6.5 quarters, and now Gentry Williams has missed time. I'll admit I have not really gone over and seen much of the post-game. I did see that Fasusi. You mentioned Fasusi earlier. He did comment and say that he's good, that he's fine. As far as I have not seen any updates on Gentry Williams' health post-game at all. So, oh, boy. We will monitor that. We'll monitor that one, and we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I was going to say, it was – go ahead.
I was going to say, let's go back to the positives, stick with the likes on the defense. How about Owen Heineke?
He was terrific last night. He was great. I think he led the team in tackles. And But I mean, the best part about him is that he made plays. I mean, I think there were 3 real impact plays that he made that were great. I mean, the one that's sticking out to me is the one on the. I think Michigan was kind of trying a little GT counter pull type thing. I mean, he just met the guy in the hole, like just shrugged off the offensive lineman who was coming down his gap, made the tackle for loss in the back, and he batted down a pass on 3rd down that he timed perfectly. I mean, he clearly had a great game last night. I thought all the linebackers were really good last night for the most part.
Doesn't look as crazy, that opening depth chart where it had Owen Heineke or Kip Lewis there. Heineke, I mean, he played well. Played against Michigan. Yeah, he had the first time I really remember seeing him do anything, where he was in the game with Sammy Omosigho in the first half, and he came in on 1st down and got a tackle right at the line of scrimmage along with Omosigho. And then, he the play that you referenced, his biggest play was 1st down and long after a penalty by Michigan when they were backed up into their own territory. And he came down and on a zone read keeper by Underwood, and he hit Underwood almost immediately and brought him down for a TFL. And then, of course, the aforementioned pass batted down at the line. So Owen Heineke had a nice day. Another just because I'm remembering it, it's fresh in my mind because I did the rewatch late in the game. Jaden Jackson, just strength, power, getting the sack, bull rush. How about that, Grant? You don't think Jaden Jackson's a guy that can make moves in the middle like David Stone can, but Jackson coming through along with, I think, Sammy Omosigho.
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone would say that's his move. I mean, he just pushed the dude into the backfield.
I know.
That was just straight power. That was awesome. That was
the play before Heineke's pass batted down at the line.
That was big boy football. That was just like, yeah, I'm pushing you right back into the quarterback. That's fun to see. Like that play fired me up. I was happy about that one. How about this, Lee? I'll throw out another to me. The face mask penalty in the first quarter notwithstanding, I thought Marvin Jones Jr. had a really good game, getting into the backfield, and they're rotating the defensive line quite a bit. They're a lot of those guys are not on the field for a bunch of consecutive snaps. But that was two plays. I mean, he had the one penalty in the first quarter, but then he had another tackle for loss in the second half where he just shot into the, and he had a TFL for -3 yards. But without that face mask, he would have had two TFLs behind the line of scrimmage on Haynes. And that's big time.
That the TFL that Marvin Jones Jr. got in the third quarter was huge because that came at a time when you get Justice Haynes. Sorry, I had Haynes. You get the long touchdown run. OU comes out, their first possession of the second half, goes 3 and out. Michigan gets the football back with all this momentum. First play on that series, Marvin Jones Jr. TFL. Got him behind the sticks. That was a huge, huge play to kind of get everything calmed down, give Oklahoma a little, stop the Michigan momentum a bit. And that was that led to a 3 and out by Oklahoma's defense. And another positive for Marvin Jones Jr. on third down of that series, he and David Stone read the screen right away and did a nice job of kind of sniffing it out and making a play there. So, yeah, good call on Marvin Jones Jr. And how about this? We haven't even mentioned this yet. Kendall Daniels.
It was great.
Kendall Daniels.
It was great.
I mean,
just made plays. Made plays.
So on Michigan's second possession, I'll just go over it. It was very nice to see both Kendall Daniels and Kobe McKenzie do their jobs on 2nd down and 3 on the reverse that Michigan just kind of mind-bogglingly, whatever the word is, called, because they were not over-aggressive. They stayed at home, and it resulted in a 6-yard TFL. And then later on that drive, on 2nd down and 9, was the play where Underwood swung it out to Haynes, and Kendall Daniels met him immediately and just rocked him.
I called that one out pre-snap. I knew that was going to Haynes right away. There was just the way that they were aligned was I think Kendall Daniels saw that too. He's like, yeah, this is going to They probably saw that on tape.
Hey, how about the Kendall Daniels era through 2 games at Oklahoma?
He's making plays.
Going pretty well so far.
He's making plays. Yeah. So it's all you can ask for. There was a couple instances in the second half where they had, with the way that Michigan was aligned, in their formations, that they had Kendall Daniels out, split out wide, covering a receiver, kind of and I was just like, oh God. But I don't think Michigan they just don't have that in their arsenal where they can make OU pay for that. But watch that kind of later on. Like we still have not seen in the first 2 games anyone being able to like isolate Kendall Daniels and take advantage maybe of his ability or inability to cover. But I mean, you're going to tackle guys behind the line of scrimmage like that. You're going to trigger that quickly. You're going to recognize that stuff. That's why you want him out there. And so I thought he was terrific. I thought he did a great job. I'm trying to think of like other good things. Remember this was in the first half, the little kind of screen sort of like swing pass out to Haynes. I think this was on 3rd down. This may have been the first drive of the game that Taylor Wine recognized, and he didn't rush the passer, and he just immediately went out to the flat to cover the running back. That blew the play up totally. I think that was on the first drive of the game for Michigan.
Yes, yeah, and in my notes, actually, I didn't even really recognize it was Heim, so I'm good calling that.
Taylor Wine.
Oh, was there a Taylor Heim?
Yeah, Taylor Heim's he's a running back, or I'm sorry, he's a linebacker.
He's on. My note on that play was it was 3rd and 4 in OU territory, and there was a slot receiver for Michigan on the field side who had nobody covering him. Okay, now I remember Wine coming out in the flats. Like, it makes me wonder if Michigan, that would have been a perfect example of if it was OU, you just take the free yards and get the easy first down. Like the closest guy, Kendall Daniels was 13 yards off that guy, like playing deep safety. And that was a situation where Michigan basically made it easy on OU by calling that play and going side to side, where they could have just had that receiver run a little 4-yard curl, turn around, boom, move the sticks. So that was my main note on that is like, that's not great offense by Michigan.
I mean, we saw it last year with OU's clown show offense that it's very obvious. Like, not every offense has these things built into them. It's like, there you go, there's free yards, let's take it. Like that's clearly the case. And so, and I did think it was, as the game went on, it became pretty clear that, Michigan and preparing for this game, you can tell that they didn't feel like they were going to be able to hold up like in the past game as much. Like I thought they were calling a lot of plays designed to get the ball out quickly to protect Bryce Underwood, because I don't think that they felt that they could hold up just like in a regular drop back passing game. And we saw that. I mean, they sort of tried that, and that was on the bull rush with Jaden Jackson, that they weren't going to be able to consistently hold up in that. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with they probably don't like the receivers that much either. And so definitely interesting. But I'm mostly happy with OU's their defense's ability to just kind of punch them in the mouth. I think one of the things I was concerned about going into this game is that it wouldn't surprise me, right? Like year 4 of Venables, it wouldn't have surprised a lot of people, right? If Michigan would have kind of come in and been able to grind out 3, 4, 5 yards every carry, kind of punch OU in the mouth a little bit. But that just did not happen in this game. Michigan was not able to get their foothold consistently whatsoever, and I think a lot of that had to do with the physicality of the defense. Defense that can still get better too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. I mean, just eliminate that 75-yard touchdown run, and the game looks so much better. Looks way more dominant.
Let's go to dislike real quick. You mentioned the physicality for the defense. Didn't it seem like there was a lot of instances in that game where Michigan players were banged up and needed attention on the field, like injured and stuff? It was kind of interesting to see it happen to the other team and not OU. And I mean, that's like a hubris, like, oh man, they're playing big physical football, but maybe there's something to it. I mean, Oklahoma's defensive guys are getting after it, and it's nice to see. I mean, it's a throwback and something we haven't really seen around here. We're seeing more and more of it, obviously, with Brent Venables, but that was just something that I noticed on the rewatch. I mean, there was a lot of TV timeouts because of Michigan players on the ground, and a lot of it was because
Samaj Morgan in the first quarter got his bell rung like real bad. I'm surprised he came back into the game. But then it was typically guys in the trenches for Michigan, that were going down a majority of the game, and so that was good to see. And it's like you can pat yourself on the back and say that's because OU is just playing big boy football and they're physical, and that could be true. That might be true. So good game from the defense. I think there's a lot they can play better too, which is the nice part. Like I'm super happy that the 75-yarder didn't snowball into just like a clown show second half. Really encouraged by that.
Let's go dislikes, and let's not go offense, defense, and start. The biggest dislike maybe should be special teams.
Yeah,
there is a lot of special teams miscues, man. And whether it's, we can go through them all. It's Sammy Omosigho with roughing the punter. Just that's a turnover effectively there. You got Isaiah Satania muffing a punt. That's a turnover right there.
Should have muffed a second one too. There's one earlier in the game that he was really lucky to he had to like dive for it to get it, and that was
on the upside though. He had a couple other catches later after that he caught it and fine. So he's coming back from it, and hopefully that's not a problem. Obviously the missed field goal, that's a problem. It wasn't a chip shot, but a 42-yarder at home. The weather was beautiful. That you got to make that kick. And there's one other special teams issue that I took note of that I can't think of right now.
Jade Knott on the kickoff. He didn't catch it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 4 special teams problems. One of them took 3 points off the board. 2 of them were turnovers, and another one put Oklahoma in terrible field position. That is. It can be cleaned up. It can be fixed.
Yeah. And I think the one that you can talk about like that can easily be cleaned up is the punt block one. That's just a straight up brain fart, stupid, whatever. The other ones,
real quick. What's even worse about that one for Sammy Omosigho is he may have gotten away with a running into the kicker like a series or 2 before, where he was up on him and he made contact with the punter, and they didn't throw a flag. It would have been a free first down because it was 4th and 5, and so he got away with it, and he still. Then, later in the game, a series or 2 later, made that mistake, which is come on, you're being aggressive, but you got to be smarter than that.
And that was bad because OU was going to have the ball on the plus side of the 50. That would have been a big, and it didn't end up greater sense of things didn't end up really hurting him that much, but still, that's one where I'm just that one doesn't worry as much because that one's way easier to clean up. The stuff with muffing the punts and then muffing the kickoff, that rhymes a little bit too much with issues that they've had in the first 3 years under Vinny, to me. Where I'm just I'm not sure. It's what was, remember, that was a thing in 2023 and 2024. A guy back there can't freaking catch a punt. And it's frustrating.
I think at least with Satania, though, we've seen when he does catch the punt, he's good with the ball in his hand. So, I'm not as bothered by the Satania stuff, again, because he did catch another punt later in the game, and I think he'll be fine. Might as well just do it. Dislike. It's time to have another Jade Knott conversation. We'll start with this. We're talking about special teams. What is he doing still back there on kickoff return? I don't know.
I don't know.
He clearly is not. He's not. His headspace was maybe not great in that game. He looked tentative carrying the football. He doesn't look like he's really confident in where he's going. I don't know what it is, if he still has lingering injury issues from that shoulder that he had early on in fall camp, if it's still mental from his injury last year with his ankle that never fully healed until the offseason. Maybe it's not that crazy to have him back on kickoff after all, because he's not their starting running back right now. And he had maybe one decent run last night for 4 or 5 yards, maybe 6.
I thought
outside of that,
his second and third runs, I thought they were both for 4 yards, where I thought they're fine. You can kind of see him. He's sort of he found the space and he was able to keep him ahead of the chains. But yeah, I don't think you don't see that explosion that you were kind of promised going into it. And also, it is Michigan, and also I've accepted this. Their running back room is going to be a mess all year. They don't have anybody there who is, the rotations are going to be weird. I don't think anyone is going to be allowed to get into any sort of rhythm or anything like that. And that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who has followed this team the last 3 years. They're just, it's a weird deal. And so I'm at the point now where I'm just if I want to enjoy this season as maximally as possible, I'm just going to try to stop worrying about the running back room. The rotations are going to be weird. It's going to be a different guy every single game. I think we just need to accept it.
Yeah, Jaden Ott, 4 carries, 9 yards. That's Torrey Blaylock had 9 carries for 24, and Javonte at 6 for 24. Good game.
I still think in terms
backs.
of carrying the football of those three guys, Blaylock looked by far the best of all of them. I think that's pretty clear.
So another dislike, and I mean it's a dislike only in the sense that I just don't think it's sustainable throughout this schedule, and that's John Mateer. He had 19 carries, 74 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's great. And now they're going to be playing Temple. Then they get Auburn. So I mean, Auburn's going to be a situation too where here's my dislike. I am concerned that the quarterback run game is a bit of a crutch for Ben Arbuckle, because if it's not there or it ends up injuring John Mateer, that's going to really hurt Oklahoma down the line. And in Arbuckle's defense, it wasn't a problem last year. Mateer ran the ball a ton. He was the leading rusher for Washington State a season ago, and Mateer was always healthy. I think there might have been one game where he maybe didn't practice a whole lot and was kind of banged up, and then he played and was good. The thing is, when you start getting into Texas and on, and it's just consistently these teams in the SEC that have good defenses that can hit. I don't want the guy carrying the ball 19 times a game, man. Mateer got beat up a little bit last night. He took probably 3 or 4 kind of late in the game hits that were like, man, he's getting back up. He's young. He's 20, 21, 22. He's probably fine. But like over a long season, I don't love it.
Yeah, I thought the majority of his carries, he did a pretty good job of not taking big hits. But you're right. In the second half, he took about 2 or 3 pretty big ones where it's just like kind of looked like he got his bell rung a little bit. There was one, I think even on the last drive that he got up and he was kind of like, he had to kind of shake it out a little bit. And I'm a little catch-20. I don't know on this just because I just want to win. I obviously, like, I'm concerned with his durability if he's going to run the ball that much, but he's obviously their best running back. It's like not even really close. He's their biggest threat running the ball on their team, and I think he led all of college football last season amongst quarterbacks and like missed tackles forced. He's a baller, man. There's times, especially against the schedule, where you're playing against these teams that have a bunch of NFL guys, where I think that's just how it's going to be. And as long as he stays healthy, great. But I think every single time he takes a big hit, I think everyone's going to be a little just sort of iffy about, just kind of like concerned about whether or not is he going to get up this time, because that's a lot. But he's a big guy. I mean, he can take the punishment. He's the size of a large running back. So you would hope that he's able to kind of take that punishment. The quarterback run game is a big part of the offense, and it makes them way harder to defend. And
you're right. I get it. It's just
I would prefer
it's going to be sustainable.
Yeah, I don't either. I would prefer that they're able to generate that with their running backs. And there's nothing that says that they can't get better as the season goes on with that. But I would hate to take away a dynamic weapon from their offense, and that's just who he is. And so I think a good way of looking at it is that he reminds me of the way that they play, the way that he plays, and the way that they kind of call the offense. He kind of reminds me of Riley Leonard in that sense. I mean, they're different play, like they look different, they have different things, but I think Mateer's a better athlete and has way more like arm talent than Riley Leonard does. But in terms of like how they're able to be slippery and sort of find like the cracks in the defense and just fall forward, I think they're really similar runners. I think Mateer's a little bit more dynamic in that sense. And man, Leonard ran the ball a ton last year. He took a lot of punishment. That's a big part of Notre Dame's offense. And
yep,
I would like for Mateer to not take as many hits, but also like I said, man, I want to win. And Mateer being able to run the ball is going to be something that gives them an advantage, especially against like really good defenses. And I think for me, I may just have to take the good with the bad in that scenario.
Well, yeah, no, it's not a big deal as long as he doesn't get hurt. The problem is I just don't like whenever you're calling certain plays, there's a lot of times where you don't need to call him to run. That's my point. Like, just you don't need to do it. Like 19 times is kind of ridiculous. Like you could have probably gotten away with 12 last night, and that's my issue. It's like sometimes where it's like I don't want to be a crutch for Ben Arbuckle, because the time he does do it too much and gets hurt, the season's essentially over. Maybe he won't get hurt and it won't matter. That's just, is it worth the risk? I don't know. I mean, we're not gonna see him run a whole lot against Temple.
No,
against Auburn.
he shouldn't.
I mean, we're going to see both
he's-
running backs probably run a lot against Auburn. We're going to see
Well, a good.
Jackson
I was gonna say
Arnold and John Mateer.
they should really, really try their absolute best so that he does not have a single carry next week. That he just doesn't carry it at all next week. They really should try their best to do that because he's going to have to carry it a lot against Auburn. But then they have a bye and then they play Kent State. So he could theoretically go 2 consecutive weeks without taking any sort of hit or punishment before the Texas game. Where we can already say he's going to have 25 carries against Texas. I mean, he's going to be their entire offense against Texas.
All right, and so we're sticking on Mateer, and you mentioned at the very beginning of the show how we got the full John Mateer experience last night. Really good, but also some head-scratching mistakes. And how about this? Third possession for OU. Keontez Lewis on first down. So his third other, we've already referenced his 2 catches. One of his first catch was a 18-yard catch on a slant where Mateer is just throwing to a spot. He recognizes the intricacies of the game. He understands where the openings are going to be. Or supposed to be in a defense, and he hits Keontez Lewis with that awkward sidearm delivery that's not that easy to watch. And then the very next play, he throws an awful interception. He throws an awful pick where he airmails Huggins, and Huggins was there. And Huggins is super tall, but not that tall, and he threw about 1.5 yards behind him too. And we talked all off season, Grant, after watching Mateer in 2024. There's going to be throws where he misses, where he shouldn't miss, and we're going to be wishing that his mechanics were better. His mechanics are still sloppy, and that's just the way he plays his game, and he gets away with it. But also, there's going to be instances where he doesn't get away with it, and that was not a good turnover. So that's one of the the dislikes for John Mateer.
Yep, and that interception was fully on his mechanics, his weird little sidearm, and just the ball just sails on him. It's just inaccurate, and it sails on him. And because other than that, it was a good diagnosis. I mean, he saw the window in the defense, and I think he went to the correct guy there. But just his weird little sidearm, the ball just sails on him. And another play too. Going to the next one. I mean, it was right before the offensive play of the game, in my opinion. That throw down the sideline to Satania where he escaped pressure and did all of that, but he should have been a touchdown the play before that to Keontez Lewis. The receiver is up playing aggressive man press coverage against him. Keontez Lewis wins at the line of scrimmage immediately, and he's got 3 or 4 yards of separation on him. And all Mateer's got to do is just put some loft on the pass. It's touchdown. I mean, Lewis has his man beat, and there's no one else there. All he's got to do is just put and then instead he throws it on a line only 7 or 8 yards off of the ground. And it essentially acts as he was just throwing it right to the Michigan defender, right where he was in the thing. It kind of reminded me of a pick a lot of people throw playing that college football video game, where it's they make a mistake and don't put loft on the pass, and it just ends up being just a throw right to the trailing defender. And that's what happened there. And so I give Satania credit too for breaking up the second tip, because it would have been a pick if Satania wasn't there. But yeah, that's one of those things where it's if you're Mateer, it's you hope that you can see that and be okay, I know in that situation there's no safety there. I can just kind of let him run underneath this, and I don't have to rocket this thing 7 yards off the ground. I can let Lewis run under it because he's already won. He's already done the hardest part of the play, and he beat his guy. So, I don't know. It feels nitpicky, but also you and I watching so much Mateer last year, it's very, very consistent with what would happen a lot last year when you watched him play.
Yeah, it's a play where, it should have been picked off. Should have been another turnover. Should have been another interception. He's thrown 2 picks now. Should have had another one on that play, so thankfully it wasn't. And it was kind of the reverse of the first half, where he had a nice throw to Lewis and then followed that up with a bad play. Here, there was a bad throw, followed up almost immediately with the great play where he threw it to Satania, and it was an awesome job. So, that's kind of the negative of John Mateer. Another one, never mind, not even worth bringing up. I can't think of any other dislikes Mateer-wise. Trying to think of any other dislikes in the game. I mean, not a whole lot. It's just. I suppose an overall dislike, and this kind of goes with the special teams. I think Oklahoma won that game by 11 points. a more disciplined team and maybe better, dare I say, a more better, well-coached team overall runs away and hides in that game. I mean, Oklahoma was a lot better than Michigan last night. Should have won that game by at least 2 touchdowns, not 11, if not 3 touchdowns, and could have potentially made it even more difficult on Bryce Underwood. That's somewhat nitpicky as well, but something that's kind of put in your back pocket for how this season progresses, that you gotta put teams away if you can, especially better teams. Oklahoma's going to face better teams than Michigan. If they're in those situations where they can put their foot on their throat, as we've talked about for the last 9 years on this show, you got to do it. And so that's something that's Oklahoma was able to keep Michigan at arm's length. I really wish they would have been able to run away with that game, because they, based on the way they played and how much better than Michigan they looked, they could have. I
agree. And that's where you just kind of hope that this becomes the first Brent Venables team, in his tenure to get better as the season goes on. That's what you hope. So I have one other nitpicky thing there, and it's just I had alluded to it earlier, just with the clock management. Because otherwise, right, the clock management on that final drive was great. I mean, anytime you roll off 8.5 minutes to ice the game, is obviously a good thing. One nitpicky thing after the face mask on Mateer to give them the first down, kind of the clock stops there, but then at the 25-second they roll the clock. Mateer needed to wait another 5 or 10 seconds before snapping that ball, because the second down snap needed to be on the other side of the 2-minute warning there. And so him snapping it early there meant that they had to run the second down play before the 2-minute warning. That's like, for a drive that had great clock management, that was one instance where it was not good. And that would only come into matter, right, if Sandell would have shanked the field goal or something like that. But that's just the one thing where they gave Michigan an extra 40 seconds when they didn't need to. And he just needed to wait 2 or 3 more seconds to snap the ball. That's it.
I didn't catch that. I'll go back and see that. It was nice to see that Michigan was the team that were using some bizarre timeouts and burning and wasting timeouts when they needed them for late in the game. And
I was thinking that too. I was when Moore started burning those timeouts, I was just like, I think OU's going to win this game. That's like bad game management for Michigan. That's a pretty, and so I'm really happy. Like OU only had to burn 1 defensive timeout in this game, so it's like there may be something in the water. This is great. Like, things are getting better.
All right. Well, I know that a lot of you are obviously very excited and left us 3-word reviews on the West of Evers Facebook page and on my Twitter account at Lee Benson Tweets. We're going longer than I'd like to go. We're going to hold off on reading those. Maybe we can select some and read them on the next show before Temple.
I think we will use that as our prompt for our first segment on Wednesday to kind of do cleanup after the game. So, because my guess is that my feeling is that we're not going to get a whole lot from the coaches this week. They're playing Temple on Saturday, so I would assume whenever, like, what we're going to get from the coaches on their Tuesday availability, I assume the thing that we're really going to be paying attention to is just health status of people, mostly Gentry Williams and like a Michael Fasusi type deal. Like Heath Ozida played seemingly the entire game. I wasn't necessarily sure that he was going to play on Saturday, and so hopefully he's still good to go. But yeah, we can do those 3-word reviews there. I'm just more. It's a really good win. Good win. Like I said, Michigan won the national championship 18 months ago, and OU 18 months later is a fair bit better than Michigan. I mean, they're quite a bit better on kind of across the board. They got a better defense. They have much better quarterback play, much better at the skill positions. I think it's something to really, really build on. Go get right against fix the stuff that you got wrong against Michigan next week against Temple, against seemingly an overmatched opponent, although Temple is 2-0 and they smoked UMass yesterday. So that'll be kind of maybe Temple won't be as much of a as like a turnstile as we assumed going into it. But get healthy, because then I think in 2 weeks, when you play Auburn, you're probably going to be playing a better team than Michigan at home in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I feel a lot better about this game after rewatching it this morning. I kind of went to bed last night, happy that Oklahoma won, but I mean, you guys know me. You listen to the show long enough. This is as much as I don't like looking ahead, because I get annoyed when people talk about Texas, and Oklahoma has like 3 more games to play before then. It's like, as much as I get annoyed by that, I will say just the previous 3 seasons of what we've seen of OU and Brent Venables coaching, that makes it harder for me to like really fully buy in yet after just 2 games. But this is obviously a great step. Michigan's a good football team. They're a real football team. They got a good defense. We'll see how they play the rest of the year. But after rewatching it, I feel a lot better just because look at the offense, thinking about Arbuckle. Yeah, I don't want John Mateer to get injured. I mean, John Mateer is in Arbuckle kind of what we all hope for. They are, along with a really good defense, they are why Oklahoma looks so good last night in a lot of different instances. And Ben Arbuckle and Mateer are being paired with a really good defense so far. So Mateer and Arbuckle don't have to be perfect like a lot of the times they had to be last year when they were playing actually good teams, even though they're full schedules against mostly Mountain West teams. And so there's a little bit more margin for error for John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle in the Oklahoma offense. And it's kind of neat to see and hope that they do get better and that maybe Oklahoma's defense can continue to play really well. And then if the offense continues to be this efficient, then you can start to get a little more excited. But through 2 games, I'm not going to get overly excited, but I am very, very happy about Oklahoma winning the game. And it's awesome to be 2-0. And it's awesome that the rest of the season is all ahead of Oklahoma. Just continue to work, do what they need to do, keep people healthy, and play some good football. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I just, on a Saturday where there was a lot of weird results. I mean, we even talk about, like, Billy Napier's tenure at Florida is over. They lose to South Florida. Same coaching class as Brent Venables, came in the same year. Or I guess maybe the year before Venables, because Mullen got fired after that COVID year because he was an unserious person, I think. It's just it's nice to see OU be the team to not have like a weird result. They just had like a nice professional keep this good team at arm's length win, and like a week, right, where Florida is playing around with their food and losing to freaking South Florida. Where it's just like I'm glad that OU is not in that position right now. That's a good feeling. And there's other things too. I mean, LSU was bad against Louisiana Tech yesterday. They have offensive problems. They're struggling to move the ball. I think it's been a weird college football season through the first 2 weeks, and it was nice to see OU playing a game that just was not weird at all. They just sort of kind of ground their opponent into dust and won the game. Sort of, and it was never really that stressful. I mean, during the game when you watch it, at times you're like, oh gosh, here we go. But then when you rewatch it, it's just like, oh, yeah, no, they were really never in a whole lot of danger of losing this game, which is a good feeling. I think that's almost at times a foreign feeling in the Vinny era.
So I'll add more into that since you brought up some outsiders, outside teams. Also, Troy and Clemson. Troy was leading Clemson, I think, into the second half, and then Clemson
16-3 at halftime. Troy was leading.
And okay, thank you. And as far as South Florida goes, what if South Florida's good? They rolled Boise State.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're good for a G5 team. I'm sure, but
I bring it up because of the Boise State result from a week ago. Keep an eye this upcoming Saturday, Grant. South Florida goes to Miami. So if they play Miami well, it's like, well, maybe South Florida's actually pretty good. But yeah, when you're Florida, you're at home. You don't want to lose to South Florida.
Doesn't matter if you're pretty good. Like Florida was, a lot of people thought with Lagway, a lot of people thought Florida was like a top 10 team this year. And I mean, Lagway bad in their first 2 games. Like he can't throw the ball down the field, which is kind of what his MO was in the second half of last season. And also, I mean, Texas was pretty sloppy against San Jose State. Texas may not be like what we think. I think they're
sloppy for the first 2 series, and then they scored like 24 points. It seemingly in a blink of an eye, and then ended up winning. But Texas did not cover, and Oklahoma, obviously as a 5.5 point favorite, did cover. So I've been on the wrong side of both OU games so far as against the spread. So I don't love that, but love the OU covered. And lastly, you brought up Bauer Sharp a long time ago in this podcast. Bauer Sharp, 1 catch for 8 yards last night.
Nick Anderson did have a touchdown catch.
And that was my next thing. Nick Anderson, 3 for 17, including a 7-yard touchdown catch. So so far, the new additions for Oklahoma's offense are playing very well. And the guys they lost have not really done anything quite yet at LSU. All right, we got good stuff. Meat and Potatoes post-game podcast, great stuff. Thank you all for listening. If you listened this far, please, if you watch us on YouTube, subscribe to the show on YouTube. And if you have not left a rating or review on Spotify, on Apple, please do that as well. We really appreciate all the support. A great win for Oklahoma, 24-13. We'll be back in the middle of the week to talk OU, Temple, and everything else going around in college football. So until then, for Grant, I am Lee. This is West of Everest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the show. And if you want to help us spread the word, please leave us a 5-star review. And also, tell all of your friends who are OU fans about West of Everest. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud.